Hello dear students, let us understand an important topic, mean of grouped data. Before understanding its mean, let us first define what is grouped data and what is ungrouped data. When you have a set of data along with you and all the observations is there, you will see that sometimes we have very large number of observations and sometimes we have very few number of observations. So when we have less number of observations, then to write them individually is feasible. We can find out the mean. But when we have a large number of observations, we need to group them in such a way so that the calculation becomes easier. If we come to the mean part, we know what is mean. Mean is sum of all observations divided by number of observations. Right? So suppose if we have in a set of data 100 observations, in that case what would happen? To have 100 observations means to add 100 observations together. Wouldn't it take much time? And sometimes we have much more observations than 100. In that case, finding the mean in such a way that you are going to add all of them and then you are going to divide it by their total number is not feasible. In such case, what we do, we group them in some class interval. Like suppose if I take an example of a math exam paper, which is of 100 marks and we have 50 students in a class. So if 50 students are scoring different marks, we would be writing all 50 numbers one by one and then adding all of them and then dividing it by 50. It will take a lot of time. Rather than doing it, what we can do, we can divide those marks into some groups. Like we can have the students which lie under the category of scoring marks between 0 to 10. Then we can have students which are scoring marks between 10 to 20. Then we can have 20 to 30. We can have 30 to 40. We can have 40 to 50 and so on till we reach till 100. So what are these? These are known as class intervals. These class intervals are those groups which we make to, include the observations under a group. This makes our calculation easier. Also, one important thing is in a class interval, if I take suppose the example of 10 to 20. So in 10 to 20, this smaller value is known as lower class limit. And this higher value is known as upper class limit. And also one very important thing is that you need to consider, like suppose if there is a student who has scored 20 marks in exam. So will you include that student in 10 to 20 group or 20 to 30 group? You need to include that student in 20 to 30 group because we never take upper class limit into consideration when we put an observation in that group. So that must be very clear to you. And one also important thing is class mark. What is class mark? A class mark is the representative of a group which will be used to multiply with the frequency. Like how do we find the class mark? Class mark of a class interval is upper class limit added with lower class limit divided by 2. Very important. We are going to use this class mark as xi. This class mark is used as xi and the frequency of this class mark is known as fi. Frequency means what? The number of times that observation is repeating itself. So frequency is denoted by fi, and we know what is the formula for finding the mean. Let me write it for you. Mean of an observation is written as x bar, it is the sum of, this is the symbol for summation, so summation of xi multiplied with fi, that means the observation multiplied with its frequency, divided by summation of fi, all the frequencies. So this is the formula for finding out the mean, and this formula comes under direct method. So is this part clear what we have studied? Then when we talk about grouped and ungrouped data, in this, in this statistics, we are always going to use grouped data because we are going to have a large number of observations. So it's better to arrange them in groups, which are also known as class intervals. Class intervals include lower class limit and upper class limit. The class mark is the representative of that class interval, which we will use to multiply with the frequency. Class mark can be found out by adding the upper class limit and the lower class limit of that particular class interval, then dividing it by 2. This is denoted as xi. This class mark is denoted as xi and its frequency is denoted as fi. And to find the mean, we will use the formula x bar is equal to summation of xi times fi divided by summation of fi. So I hope this is clear. You may note it for your reference. Thank you.